The silent bloom. The day Maria discovered the truth about the flowers, she had no idea it would be the beginning of the most unexpected chapter of her life. In the blistering heat of the desert, where the sun mercilessly scorned the earth, Maria stood in front of her small, barren house. It was a shack, really more dust than wood, and yet it was all she had. The only things that gave her life meaning were the flowers she grew, even though they struggled to thrive in the harsh conditions. The dry, cracked earth offered no support. The water was scarce, and the air was heavy with dust, but Maria was determined. She loved flowers. They represented hope to her, the belief that no matter how impossible a situation might be, beauty could bloom. Maria's motivation came from the depths of her soul. Growing up in a world where her circumstances were less than ideal, she had never known a life of luxury. Her parents had been poor, and their lives had been filled with endless toil. They had taught her that the key to survival wasn't in wealth or material possessions, but in resilience. It was this resilience that Maria carried with her every day, a quality that even the harshest elements couldn't break. But there were moments when the weight of her circumstances seemed unbearable, when even her flowers struggled to grow. It was during these times that she found herself at the edge of despair. Her flowers were her only escape. She would wake up before dawn each day, water them with whatever little rainwater she had managed to collect the night before, and tend to their fragile stems and leaves with a tenderness that was at odds with the world around her. Despite the limitations, she coaxed each bloom to life with the love of someone who knew the value of hard work. And on one fateful morning, as she checked the garden, she saw something that took her breath away. Among the withered petals and thirsty roots, there was a flower unlike anything she had ever seen before. It was tall, vibrant, and its colors shimmered as though they were painted by the gods themselves. Maria stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. It was impossible. In this desolate place, where nothing ever grew properly, this flower had appeared as though by magic. Her hands trembled as she reached out to touch it, wondering if perhaps it was a figment of her imagination, a dream brought to life by her exhaustion. But no, it was real. The petals were soft yet strong, and its stem was firm and unyielding. She looked at the flower in disbelief. How could something so beautiful bloom here, in the midst of so much hardship? Maria couldn't answer the question, but as she gazed at the flower, she felt something stir inside her, a spark of hope that she hadn't felt in years. As the days passed, Maria returned to the flower, visiting it like an old friend. She spoke to it softly, telling it her hopes and fears. It became her confidant, the one thing that never judged her, never questioned her. And in return, the flower seemed to thrive, growing taller and more magnificent with each passing day. But with the flower's beauty came an unsettling presence. The village was small, and gossip spread quickly. People began to notice Maria's extraordinary flower, and soon they were coming from far and wide to see it for themselves. Some believed it was a gift from the gods. Others thought it was cursed, a harbinger of something dark. One evening, as Maria stood before the flower, a figure approached from the shadows. It was a man, tall and imposing, with piercing eyes that seemed to see straight through her. He introduced himself as Victor, a traveler passing through the village. He had heard of the flower and had come to see it with his own eyes. Maria was wary of him at first. There was something about him that felt off, something that made her instinctively take a step back. But the man was charming, his voice smooth and persuasive. He spoke of the wonders of the world, of places far beyond her desert home, and for a brief moment, Maria allowed herself to be drawn into his words. Victor asked if he could take a cutting from the flower, promising that it would bring prosperity to her life. At first, Maria was hesitant. She had grown so attached to the flower, and the idea of letting it go felt like losing a part of herself. But Victor was convincing, and in a moment of weakness, Maria agreed. She watched as he carefully clipped a small piece of the flower stem, his touch gentle but deliberate. And as soon as he did, something changed. The air grew cold, and the once vibrant flower began to wilt before her very eyes. The petals turned dark, the leaves curled in on themselves, and the once sturdy stem began to bend and break. Maria gasped in horror. What had he done? Victor's eyes glinted with something cold, something not quite human. He looked at her with a smirk. "Do you think things come for free, Maria?" he asked, his voice dripping with disdain. "Nothing in this world is without cost. You should have known better." With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night as though he had never been there at all. Maria stood in stunned silence, the broken flower before her a painful reminder of her mistake. But as the minutes passed, something strange began to happen. The flower's petals shimmered once more, its colors shifting in an almost imperceptible way. Slowly, it began to regain its life. Maria watched in awe, unsure of what was happening, but she could sense that there was something supernatural at play. The flower was changing, evolving into something far more powerful than it had been before. Days turned into weeks, and the flower grew stronger, its beauty even more otherworldly. But it wasn't just the flower that was changing. Maria herself began to feel different, as though the flower's power had somehow seeped into her. She found herself thinking about the world in new ways, imagining possibilities that had never occurred to her before. The desert, once a barren wasteland, now seemed to teem with hidden life, as though the land itself had been awakened by the flower's presence. However, with this newfound power came an unsettling realization. The flower was not just a symbol of beauty and hope, it was also a source of danger. People who came too close to it were drawn to its strange allure, and some who had touched it never returned. Rumors spread throughout the village that the flower had a dark side, that it could curse those who sought to possess it. The once innocent flower now seemed to carry an aura of mystery and fear. Maria began to question everything. Was this flower truly a blessing, or was it a curse, one that would ultimately consume her? She had been so desperate for something beautiful in her life, something to hold on to in a world that often felt like it was slipping through her fingers. But now she wondered if she had made a deal with forces she didn't understand. One night, as she sat by the flower, deep in thought, she heard a voice. It wasn't Victor's, nor was it anyone she recognized. It was a soft, melodic voice, like a whisper on the wind. "You are not alone," it said. "You have never been alone." Maria's heart raced. She looked around, but there was no one there. The voice came again, this time clearer. "The flower is yours, but it is not just yours. It is a part of something much greater, something that binds the world together." For the first time, Maria understood. The flower was not a gift or a curse. It was a symbol of the delicate balance between life and death, between light and dark. It was a reminder that beauty could exist in the most unexpected places, even in the harshest conditions. And it was a sign that, just like the flowers she had so carefully nurtured, she too had the power to bloom, to grow, and to flourish, even when the world seemed determined to break her. In the end, Maria realized that her true strength didn't lie in the flowers or the magic they brought. It lay within herself, in the love she had for them, in her determination to care for them no matter the circumstances. And as the flower bloomed once more, its colors brighter than ever, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. The silent bloom stood as a testament to all that Maria had endured and all that she had become. A flower that had blossomed in the harshest of conditions, a symbol of hope and resilience, not just for her, but for the world. And in that moment, Maria understood the profound lesson that life, much like the flowers, could bloom even in the most difficult circumstances.
whispering echoes